So hi again, it's me Felicity here, and we're continuing with the onshape tutorial to now exploring how to sketch. Where do you start? So in the first tutorial, I showed you the different areas that you can that are comprised on this user interface, and how to create a new part studio, and it just basically explained how this works. So the first time you'll find your interface looking like this. So let's say you want to sketch something on the top plane, so you'll right click here and then you'll say view normal to, right click again, and you can do a new sketch. So you can see now there's a sketch that has been seen. There's a sketch that is in progress. You want to end the sketch, you will click on the red X button and you will have ended the sketch, and you'll have nothing though. Basically our sketch tools are on this top part, and we'll just explore a few things that we can do in the sketching window. So for example, if you want to create a rectangle, there's different types on the drop down. So you can either do a corner rectangle or a center point rectangle. So a corner rectangle, let's just look at it. We'll start at a corner, at a point. You'll pick the point at which you want to start, and then you'll build your rectangle. If you want to do a rectangle from the center, which will help you to do a more symmetrical shape, so that will be done. So if we undo this, for example, if we undo that, and we want to create a center point rectangle, so we will look at that, pick that, and then click on the center point, and automatically it expands from the center. And this is better because now it's symmetrical all around. Let's say now we want to add a circle. The same thing applies for circles. You'll have a center point, a 3-point, and an ellipse. So a center point circle will help you to be concise about where you want to start your circle and then go off from that point. However, the 3-point circle, let's just look at it, is more based on which points you click, and then you expand it from that. So you can see it's not the same. So depending on where and for what purpose you're drawing your circle, you will select one of those. So, and another thing is another part is the arc. So there's different types of arcs. You can use tangent, 3 points. So I'll just take the center point. So I'd advise you to play around with the different arcs and see how they work. So if I want an arc, for example, here, I will create an arc. So I'll create an arc over there. If I want to close this arc with a line, I will select a line and cut it all the way there, and I have a line. And then of course there's other shapes like polygons, which you can change. It can either be circumscribed or inscribed. So if I choose a polygon, I try to create a polygon here, I can change the number of sides. So for this one, a polygon, of course, this is a hexagon. If I want like an octagon, I can increase the number of sides for this. So you see that's a 27-sided figure. I can change it to 3, can increase it to 8. It becomes an octagon. So depending on what I want in that polygon, that's what I will decide. Then I can still edit that. If I come back and go and decide, you know what, I didn't want an octagon, I wanted a hexagon, so I'll change that to 6, and then it becomes a hexagon. So that's another very interesting thing that it can do. You can have a spline. So for example, you want to do an odd shape, a shape that is not conventional, you'll want to work with a spline, so it keeps changing shape as it moves. It helps you create like more curvaceous shapes. See, something like that, it's more curvaceous, and you can edit it. To, you see that you can do cool stuff with that. So that's the fun part about a spline. So I'm not drawing a spline in my drawing, so I'll cancel that. So yes, so that's the path, the ones that will help you to draw. Now let's look at the things you can do to your drawing. So for example, you can add text. If you want to name it, you come and create a text box and then decide what you're gonna write. Let's say I want to write just A, and that's the text I want to write. I accept and I get an A. So yes, I can, so this text, as later we'll see, can either be embossed or engraved depending on what you want. Yes, you can also, another thing I would want to show you every single thing that you can do, but you can also create a fillet on your sketch. So fillet will create more curvy ends, so maybe you want to fillet this end, put the number of inches, so let's say it's 1/2 inch. So that's it. If it's 1/2 inch of radius, and you can see, another thing you need to understand is that now we're working with inches. You need to be very conscious of what units you're working with. So when you come up here, here's where you'll change your workspace units. In case you didn't want to work with inches, which is the default, you can change to centimeters or millimeters. I prefer to work with millimeters, so that's what I prefer. Then of course, default angle unit also, if you want to work with radians, those kind of things. If you want to display decimals or not, how many decimals do you want, default mass unit. So for like when later you want to do more scientific kind of experiments, so you want to still include the idea of mass so that you can do good simulations. So those are the things you can do. So now, as you can see, when we did that, we kind of got out of sketch mode. So to get back to what we were sketching, we'll come back here and double click, then it comes back to the sketch that we're doing. So we've done fillet, then there's a cut, trim. This is my favorite. Usually, sometimes, for example, here you maybe just want a groove over here, you do not want this line, so with this scissors you can just cut it off, and that's it. You have a nicely trimmed edge. You can offset. This is also very useful for creating shapes that are like have a thickness but they're not continuous. So for example, I want to offset this line to the inside, so I can offset it by 5 millimeters, but I do not want to do that. I just wanted to demonstrate. So let's go back. Wow, let's undo that. Okay, so another thing is mirror. So mirror is nice for, I think so, some of this functionality you have to see it in action for you to understand. So for instance, I want to mirror this lines that I did on this end so that they're exactly the same distance from the center point. So I will choose the mirror function. I select a mirror line, which is this plane, and I select the entities, so maybe it's that, and voila, I have mirrored grooves. So that's a very cool thing. So if I wanted to, for example, that would mess up with the design. So that was just a demonstration. Another thing you can do is a linear pattern. A linear pattern is for just creating a linear pattern of things. So if you have like holes all the way from here to here and you want to equally space them, instead of doing it one by one, you can create a linear pattern over a hole, and you can see that it asks you to choose direction. Is it linear towards the vertical or towards the horizontal? And you'll be able to choose how many. So for example, I want it to go horizontal, or that way, and I choose so the linear pattern is misbehaving. I wanted to do the circles, so that's it. Right, you decide this way is 3 times, so you say 3 times is enough. You can add the number of times it should go this way, and then upwards it's going once, so you could decide I do not want anything upwards, go to 0. So there's only one line. Of circles going in this direction. At this point, let's just put it at 1 and have the default, and that was still for demonstration. Let me just undo. So there's that, and a very important part of sketching is adding dimensions. That's another thing. You can sketch without dimensions. So this is dimension tool. If you want to dimension this line, you'll come and click on the line and then drag, and it will give you the number of millimeters. So then when you click there, you can decide, so 78 is too high, maybe around 50 or 60, 65, and it reduces. So maybe 65 is not working for you, maybe you want 80, you can edit. So dimensions, very, very, very important. And then there's the constraints. Constraints will help you to kind of put some order into your drawing. If you do not put constraints for some things, then when you come to redimension them, things happen. So for example, you can see this hexagon was not here because we've dimensioned it differently. Now it's moved in position. So if we had fixed it in position, for example, if we want a line to stay horizontal, no matter what, we give it a horizontal constraint. If we want circles to be concentric, in that even if I make the outer circle bigger, the centers will still be coinciding. These are all the constraints that we can put, and it's easier explained when you're seeing the design happening. So for example, I want equality between this line, and of course it's the default, usually it's equal, but I want them to stay equal no matter what. So I'll say this should be equal to maybe this one, let's just say, so that it's a square. So no matter what, so that would mean that anytime I change the dimensions of this, so let's get out of that constraint. If I change the dimensions of this side, by default the other side will change. You see that? If I change it to 90, default the other one will change. So that's the use of constraints. There's a lot of them, so you can, as you follow along and see as design, you'll understand all of them. So there's a lot. There's perpendicular all the way, and you can even scroll. So the more you use them, the more it makes sense. So for now, I've demonstrated the one for it being equal. You can also put things to be parallel, tangent, whatever, depends on what you want. So for now, I feel like I've introduced the sketching aspect. So for the next one, we're going into how do we turn this into a 3D object. So to get out of the sketch, you just click there and you have a sketch. You have yourself a sketch there. So I'll see you in the next tutorial.